Okay, watercolor demo part 2. Make sure you label your studies. This is analogous, monochromatic. Remember, one color plus tints and shades, and then here's a double complement. And then something else we experimented with was drawing with crayon. Oh, where was it? Then if you paint on top with the watercolor, the lines will stand out. That's kind of just a little cool thing. We're going to get into some salt and such on Thursday, but for now we did that. The next thing for the study to be complete is to practice blending and shading an object from observation. It could be from your head. Either way, you want a light source. I think monochromatic would be something basic to get started with. So let's see, I'm going to have lots of purple on here. I'll go ahead and start with purple. So if this form is going to be purple, I'm going to start with a light. Always start with your light values. So also you see I mapped out my drawing. This little line here is a highlight, which means it's bright white. Now with watercolor, you do not have a white on your tray, in your tray. You need to use the white of the paper to be a highlight. So if you map out your drawings first with pencil, you know where those highlights are. Start by painting around them with the lighter value, and then you can build from there. And you can also erase some low lights. But even when you erase and pick up pigment, you will not be able to get it as white as what's on the page without any pigment. Okay. So you're going to paint your entire object, whatever it is that you're doing, so that you have a range of value. You can start with just one color and opacity, translucency. So for example, this section of this wooden art figure is darker than the top section, so I'm adding more pigment into my little pool of water here, so it looks darker, but really it's just more concentrated color. And then this part here is darker than that part. Now, if you don't wait long enough to paint your spaces that have another color, for example, this edge, if this was really wet, then this would get blurry. And then I'm going to add a little water. This part is lighter. There's also this part up here is lighter. Add some water. And there's a highlight in between the planes. This plane kind of curves back towards the shoulders. This one goes downward. So I'm really looking at the object to see what's happening with the light and the dark to create that. This has more round, like a dark part and a light part. There's a really crisp dark edge underneath. And underneath this. And then in between these guys. Also under here. Get out a little water. Do a little gradient on this arm from dark to light towards that highlight. Bump up the contrast. And you can kind of see just mapping out your shapes of the shadows and the highlights. For example, starting with a basic form like this, know where your your light sources, you know this part will be the lightest, medium, darkest, and then the cast shadow might even be darker. If you're just learning value, using a source is always helpful so that you can kind of match your values and see what are the shapes of the highlights and shadows. Once you've drawn a lot, we've been working with sphere and these geometric forms a lot, so that's pretty basic, but if you draw something from your mind, an alien or a creature or something, just make sure you can imagine where the light is and where the highlights might be and the shadows might be, and just paint something down here where you're experimenting. All right, have fun.